Hello, welcome on in everybody. I've got a weird build for you guys today. I am playing a Vampire Stamina Nightblade that uses damage shields. This build is super surprising for me. We are using one of the oldest sets in the game, White Strakes, which gives you a damage shield when you drop below a certain health value. The synergy of these damage shields mixed with the Undeath passive and Mistform on a Nightblade gives us a build that is super frustrating for people to kill. I have never played a Nightblade build where people struggle so hard to bring me down, and just when they think I'm on the brink of death, I've got that really strong vampire ultimate for the cherry on top. And yeah, I'll be honest guys, this build is super fun to play. I think it excels a lot in that Zergy environment that you find in Cyrodiil. I think this is one of the most well-rounded Nightblade builds that I have ever played. It doesn't lack in any area. It's got great sustain, great damage, great mobility, and great durability. A perfect build to play at any skill level. And of course, if you guys want to see a written guide to this, you can find a link to it down below or on my website, kristofereso.com. And without further ado, let's take a look at that build. So starting off, I am a Wood Elf on this Nightblade. I think Wood Elf is the best race choice for this guy because we get the speed, we get a lot of sustain from Wood Elf as well, penetration, and of course maximum stamina. Any stamina race will work well, but Wood Elf is uniquely the best fit for this build. Now, taking a look at the stat page, we've got 14k magicka, 31k health, and just about 24k stamina. Now, the health pool is a little bit lower on the front bar, and it's minus the Emperorship bonus, which I do have right now. So 29 to 30k health for the most part if you don't have this bonus up. Pretty standard stats for a medium armor Nightblade build. And then when I buff up with the potion and of course rally, we can take a look at the sustain of this build. 1600 magicka recovery, 2253 stamina recovery, and just a little bit of health recovery. This is a vampire, so the health recovery is not a super important stat for the build. And the sustain is at a pretty good level like this. You could add more sustain to it if you want to play it in no CP, but you should be fine with these values here. Now let's take a look at the weapon damage on this build. Buffing up with our rally, with the Rallying Cry set, and of course popping in and out of stealth for the vampire bonus. We've got just over 5k weapon damage. Now, we do have Merciless Resolve for another 300 base weapon damage, and last but not least, we do have the weapon and spell damage enchant on the bow. So fully buffed, this build has just shy of 6k weapon damage. Now, this isn't a super crazy high amount. That being said, this build is rocking a ton of penetration, so that's where a lot of the damage on this guy is going to come from. And of course, as we take a look at the build, you'll see that I opted to not dump too hard offensively, but instead take a look at building the Nightblade a little bit more defensively. The weapon crit is at 38.3%. This buffs up to 45% while you're in combat. And then, of course, the penetration, 15.4k physical and spell penetration. We've got the Major and Minor Breach for another 9k penetration, and then the Nightblade Backstab passive for another 3k on top of that. And that puts this build at around 28k penetration, which is fantastic for PvP. Most targets, you will penetrate their armor completely. And then let's take a look at the resistance on this build. I'm going to buff up again by going into stealth here. And you can see we're sitting at 31k spell resist, 30k physical resist, and when the Rallying Cry procs, there's that whopping 3,573 critical resistance. Yeah, this Nightblade is actually pretty bulky, and we've got damage shields on top of this bulk, and we've got Undeath from the Vampire, and the gameplay actually makes this a very difficult Nightblade build to actually put down, while allowing you to still have great damage and be very kitey and play that kind of stealthy Nightblade style. Now, taking a look at the Mundus here, got the Lover for more penetration, definitely the way to go. And then, of course, for the food, I've got the Orzorga Smoked Bear Haunch. We are a vampire, so the Jewels of Misrule are a fantastic option if you don't want to spend the ton of money that the Orzorga Smoked Bear Haunch costs to use. And of course, a vampire stage 3. This is for the additional weapon damage as we pop out of stealth and Undeath. Very important for this build. And then last but not least, for the consumable on this guy, I am just using the standard Restoration Potions, giving all resources back and every single major buff. Great for the sustain all around in PvP and the additional healing power from it. Now, let's take a look at the sets on this guy. This build runs some kind of weird sets, but I found it actually worked really well. So let's take a look at the first set here, and it's Rallying Cry. This is going to give us the 300 weapon and spell damage on the back bar, and then 1600 critical resistance for 20 seconds when we get a crit with a heal on our back bar. Seeing as Vigor is on the back bar of this build and we'll be spending a lot of time in Cloak on that bar, it's very easy to keep Rallying Cry up 100% of the time while we're in a fight. I like this set a lot because it is both a mix of offensive and defensive set, and we can slot it on the back bar, which is absolutely massive. Now, taking a look at the next set I've got, it's a 3-piece agility. I know, it's been a long time since I've used agility in a build, but there is good reason for it, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Agility set itself just gives a good amount of stamina and base weapon and spell damage. And then the next piece here is the Marken Ring of Majesty. This is why we have the 3-piece agility on, and why we have kind of a weird build setup on this guy. But the Marken Ring of Majesty is going to give you 100 weapon and spell damage and 1150 armor for every single 3-piece set that you are wearing. So with the agility and Rallying Cry being on the back bar, making it a 3-piece while we are on this front bar, we get that whopping 300 weapon damage and 3.4k armor, which is a huge amount of base stat to get from a mythic item. And then last but not least, the last set I'm running on this build, and kind of a weird choice, but I hope you guys like it. I tried a few different sets in this spot, and I liked White Strakes the most. Now, if you aren't familiar with this set, it is a very old set. It's actually been in the game since launch, and there haven't been a ton of changes to the functionality of this set throughout its lifetime. But I'm finding in today's meta, this set has a ton of synergy with a vampire, especially something that's built a little bit more bulky and trying to get away like a vampire Nightblade. So the 5-piece of White Strakes will give us a 6,300 damage shield when we take damage while under 30% health. It's going to last for 6 seconds, and it is on a 15-second cooldown. The reason that this is so good for this build is because I find stealth is a very difficult tool to use to get away. So adding the combination of Mist Form to stealth allows us to reposition to a spot where we're not just going to be pulled out of stealth by an AoE or another opponent's attack. So the idea of running White Strakes on this build is to give Mist Form that additional bit of durability when we're trying to break that distance. On top of it, this is going to be a fantastic save if we just find ourselves getting spiked out anyhow. And the combination of White Strakes plus the CP passive that gives us a damage shield when we heal ourselves while under 25% health just makes this build very difficult to actually put down. You have to land a really clean combo on it, and if they give you a chance to get away, you are likely going to be able to escape on this guy. So yeah, really liking White Strakes as the 5-piece. That being said, you can run something else here if you want. I actually was running Fortified Brass and had like 38k spell and 37k physical resist on this build. I really liked it like that. That was pretty strong, but the White Strakes set really is the icing on the cake, especially for those Mist Form getaways. And if you find that this build is a little bit too defensively minded for you, feel free to put an offensive set of choice here instead. Now, taking a look at the traits and enchants on this build, starting off with the bow, it's defending with the weapon spell damage enchant. Weapon spell damage, of course, great because that will carry over to our front bar when we proc it, and a lot of combos we start off with a bow light or heavy attack and then swap to the front bar. And then defending for the back bar, really nice, especially because we're running Mist Form, just more durability while we're in that Mist Form. Again, more synergy with the White Strakes set by adding more bulk to that back bar too. And then on the front bar, I've gone with Sharpened and Poison damage on the Maul of Agility. Maul, of course, for that additional penetration, Sharpened for even more penetration, and I like the Poison damage because it adds a dot, and Nightblade doesn't have access to Poison damage. All of its special attacks are actually disease damage, so disease is not a bad option though. Can add a little bit of healing debuff on the opponent. It's really up to the user here, but both are a good option. And then for the jewelry, I've got a mix of protective and infused. Ideally, I would actually run full protective on this. The build feels really defensively powerful, and the protective helps a lot with that. Infused is just going to give us 100 additional weapon damage, which isn't going to be a huge cut to our overall damage, seeing as it's mostly penetration based anyway. So yeah, definitely go for protective on the jewelry if you can. And then the glyphs I have here, I've got a stamina recovery, a magicka recovery, and then a weapon damage glyph. Of course, if you want more sustain on this build, feel free to add more recovery glyphs here. And then for the equipment, I've got a mix of well-fitted and reinforced. All of the medium and light pieces are well-fitted. I know I called this a medium armor build, but it's actually 3 medium, 2 light, and 2 heavy. And then the heavy pieces are reinforced because you do get quite a lot of additional armor from a reinforced trait on the heavy armor pieces. So just adding more durability. And then all the enchants I have here are just maximum health and a couple maximum stamina on these little pieces. Ideally, you want to make your stats around where I have them. 30k HP is a good sweet spot for PvP, especially if we do have the defensive capability that this build has. You could always go for the tri-stat glyphs too, but it's not really necessary. The additional magicka that it gives won't have a massive impact on this build's overall performance. Now let's take a look at the skills I'm running here. The first ability, of course, Surprise Attack, the primary spammable of the build, and it will stun your opponent if you hit them from the flank and set them off balance. Next patch, this will be a guaranteed crit and it will no longer stun the opponent, but it will still set them off balance, so you can use a partial charged heavy to follow it up with a stun of choice. I actually kind of like this change to Surprise Attack because it allows you to combo really huge hits off that off balance into something like the Merciless Resolve for big damage, and your opponent has a very hard time avoiding that. It also applies the Sundered status effect, has a fantastic base tooltip value compared to other single target spammables, and Sundered, of course, is going to be access to that minor armor debuff on your opponent. The next skill that I have here is Ambush. Ambush is a great gap closer. It inflicts minor vulnerability to your opponent, and on top of it, you get minor berserk when you use it, and it will give you Empower for the additional light and heavy attack damage. Yeah, really good all-around gap closer. I like that it's a teleport too because you can still use it while immobilized, unlike some other gap closers. And if you want, you don't have to run Ambush here. You could go for an Execute or something like that you feel maybe works better for the build or your playstyle. And then the next ability is Camouflaged Hunter. This is here for the passive Major Savagery buff that it provides, a little bit of weapon damage, and of course it is access to minor Berserk as well. Not super important because we do get that from Ambush, but more reason for you to be able to switch out Ambush for a skill of choice if you want. The next ability I have is Rally. This is the primary burst heal of the build, access to both Major Brutality and of course the minor Endurance buff, super important for sustain. And the burst heal on Rally is not bad on this build. You won't be getting any kind of insane crits. I've gotten 12 to 13k Rally crits in PvP, but the focus on penetration means that our Rally isn't going to be that 16k heal that it could be if we just built a lot of weapon damage. And then the next skill I've got here is Merciless Resolve. Gives us up to 300 weapon and spell damage when we activate this skill and then get some light and heavy attacks landed on opponents. And then it's got the single highest tooltip damage for any single target ability in the game when you shoot that arrow. Not only that, but it's a ranged attack too, so you can deliver this guy at a distance. Definitely a must-have for burst on the Nightblade. And then the last ability here, the ultimate, is Incapacitating Strike. You guys know how this works. It's going to be a powerful upfront ability, 20% additional damage after you hit your opponent with it. You're going to have Reeve while slotted on the front bar, so a little bit of sustain while we're being offensive with our greatsword here. And of course, if you have a 120 or more ultimate, you'll stun the opponent. You could switch to another ultimate of your choice here, but for Nightblade, I do really like Incap because it does allow you to have really good single target combo and burst. And then moving on to the back bar, the first ability I have on the bow is Crushing Weapon. I like Crushing Weapon a lot because it allows us to have a really solid combo out of stealth. Crushing Weapon, light attack, swap to our front bar and then hit them with a surprise attack or an ambush surprise attack or even the ultimate or spectral arrow. Doesn't matter what you do, the Crushing Weapon will be stacked on top of the combo. And of course, it applies Major Breach to the target, which is huge for outgoing burst and just sustained damage against an opponent. And then if you don't actually use the Crushing Weapon, you get a little bit of stamina back. This is actually a really nice part of this ability because you're not always going to use the Crushing Weapon while you're running around in Cloak and waiting for that opportunity to actually land a nice combo. And then moving on here, we've got Resolving Vigor. This is kind of the primary heal of the build. You'll be using Vigor to heal yourself for the most part. You can't use Vigor while you're in stealth. It will break you out of stealth, but still a great heal over time and definitely something we need on this guy. And then moving on to the next ability, I've got Elusive Mist. Kind of a weird choice for the Nightblade, I know, but I really like it. It makes getting into stealth a lot easier. It gives the Nightblade an ability to survive really bad situations that if it didn't have a shade down or you tried to use Cloak to survive in, Nightblade would just get killed. So this is all in all just completing the defensive kit of Nightblade, I think. And then moving on to the next skill, I've got the Shadow Image. Of course, you put the shade down, you can teleport back to it if you're within 20 meters of it, and it will inflict minor maim to the target, reducing their damage done too, so it really helps in something like a one-on-one as well. This is a huge skill for Nightblade because right now stealth can be kind of unreliable, but Shade is going to be good old reliable, allowing you to teleport out of there. Make sure when you play a Nightblade that you always put Shade down if you're running this ability. And then moving on to the next skill here, we've got Shadowy Disguise. This is access, of course, to stealth on the Nightblade. Guaranteed crit when we exit stealth, which is fantastic. Again, I find that stealth by itself is not a super effective defensive option, but when you mix it with the Shade and Mist form, you have a really well-rounded kit. And yeah, the damage shields on top when our health drops, really nice stuff. And then finally for the ultimate on the back bar, I've gone with Swarming Scion. I really like this ultimate because it's kind of unexpected on the Nightblade. Not a lot of Nightblades run it, but it gives you an incredible amount of durability when you use it. And probably the most important aspect of it, it's a full heal when you use it as well. So not only will you gain the additional 10k health, but if you're on the brink of death, this just brings you right back to full HP. The only downside to this ultimate, of course, is that really expensive cost. And finally, let's take a look at the champion points on this build. Of course, you want to apply all the applicable passives that you can, but let's look at the individual stars that I've picked. The first one here is From the Brink. Whenever you heal yourself or an ally under 25% health, you grant them a 11k damage shield for 6 seconds, and this can occur once every 30 seconds per target. Now in PvP, this is actually a 5.5k damage shield, so it's not as big as it suggests on the tooltip here. But still, the fact that this procs when you are very low health and you need that additional healing or durability, super important. Again, synergizing really well with this build because when we enter Mist form, the White Strake shield will proc, and then when we exit Mist form and heal, this shield will proc on top of it, giving us a pretty okay 11k shield stack on a Nightblade. Yeah. Pretty fun to have something like that on a Nightblade build, but I'm finding great use out of this champion passive. Works really well with the Vampire Undeath. And then of course I've got Resilience for additional critical resistance. This one here might be a little overkill. I like to run it because it is a very good counter to other high damage Nightblades that are running critical builds, and there's a lot of critical damage Nightblades going around right now, but you know, if you want to run a different star here for more damage or some other form of durability or special effect, this is the one that is your flex spot. And then, of course, Ironclad to reduce the damage we take by direct attacks by 6% per stage. And last but not least, we've got Master at Arms to increase our direct damage by 3% per a stage. You could alternatively go for the Exploiter, which can be 10% damage against an off-balance opponent, giving this build a higher maximum damage ceiling. However, your opponent needs to be off-balance for that, and they won't always be off-balance, especially if you're opening with your ultimate out of stealth or something like that. So it's up to the user which one you want to go with. I went with Master at Arms because it will consistently give you that damage buff. Now moving on to the red tree, again, put in all those applicable passive stars that you can. And then for the actual stars that I've chosen, the first one here is Slippery. When you are affected by a disabling effect, you automatically break free, and this is a 21-second cooldown. I really like this because it's actually a huge help to your stamina sustain in general. You don't have to pay for 1 out of 3 break frees, assuming you're getting stunned on cooldown, so yeah, really nice for that reason. And the next one I have here is Fortified for the additional armor. Again, this is a bit of a flex spot, but seeing as we have that 30k-ish resists on this build, I do really like having that additional armor there. Survival Instincts, 25% cost reduction when you're under the effect of a status effect. We have absolutely no purge on this Nightblade, so you will most definitely have a status effect on you in PvP almost all the time. So this is a huge amount of resource save on our roll dodge and our block. And then last but not least, Celerity for that 10% movement speed, stacking with the fact that we're a Wood Elf, and yeah, really nice stuff because Nightblade benefits a lot from being mobile, especially if you want to play a more kitey build like this. And there you go, guys, that is the build. Alright guys, let's get into that PvP commentary. I've got just one clip for you guys today. It is a super long fight in a very zergy battle outside here. This is a place where this Nightblade build absolutely excels. The additional durability makes it very hard for opponents to actually kill us, and we've got the firepower to actually take opponents down out of stealth, picking up a couple really quick kills on those guys there, and then I just retreat back behind the rocks here, and of course set down that safety shade. Super important that we have that escape. This guy's going to attempt the res. I get good damage with the light attack, surprise attack. He ends up dodging the last half of the combo there, and I take a lot of damage. There you see the White Strake's shield proccing, and I managed to shade my way into safety. A lot of pressure from these guys as I try to shade into safety again here, and make it to the top of the tower. You couldn't see it because it was a little sped up, but the damage shield when we heal ourselves did proc as we came out of mist and healed. So that's, again, an important part of this build. I catch this guy out of stealth, get a couple hits into him. He ends up breaking it and rolling it, and I miss the last bit of the surprise attack on him there, and then just shade back up to the top here. Really like fighting in a tower with Nightblade because you can constantly shade to that very safe top location. And I just drop down to the bottom, and again, we go for that crushing weapon, go for the light attack, hit this guy with a surprise attack. He ends up stealthing before it lands, and in comes the counter meteor. I counter it with mist form right away, and then drop down to the bottom here. Of course, set down a fresh shade since we've been pulled out of position from that original spot. And this enemy Templar follows me, and he just ends up camping my shade. He's holding block. And not just that, but when we actually get through his block here, you'll see that he is very tanky. This build can kill really tanky opponents, but it requires us to land a nice clean combo with our ultimate, and especially the Spectral Arrow. There you see I get the ultimate from behind, go for the light attack, surprise attack, and then he ends up blocking the Spectral Arrow. So that was our chance really to hit him with a nice combo, and he did a good job defending against it, keeping his buffs up. And the beauty of these kinds of fights and this build, I don't have to stick around and try to kill this tank. I can just move on to a more appropriate target. Really good combo on this guy in the middle of the group. And as I roll away, I get a nice light attack, surprise attack cancel to finish him off. He did get a bit of a heal from the friendly there, and then I just re-stealth. There's the light attack crushing weapon, and then I shoot the Spectral Arrow into the light attack, surprise attack after hitting him with the ambush. That guy does not react right away, so we just bring him down with that combo very quickly. Then I jump on top of this enemy Sork, trying to put a bit of damage into him. He ends up streaking away and following the rest of the Zerg. So I just reset my shade here, reset my buffs, and take a look at what's coming this way. An enemy Sork is getting shot at by an AD. I jump on top of him. He ends up just dodging my initial combo by dodging the shot from this Archer. So I switch targets to the Archer, get right behind him with the crushing weapon, light attack, ambush, and then light attack, surprise attack to finish him off. Really nice clean combo on him. And then I just re-stealth up again, and I'm going to try to open up on this Nightblade. He ends up stealthing right away. I pop the counter stealth to try to pop him out, but he ended up moving far enough away that we weren't able to get that in time. Again, set down a fresh shade, and I'm just going to try to get behind the yellow and see if I can cause a little bit of damage here. Now, I did get kind of hit through stealth by the proc on that guy's set. So that ended up just kind of ruining my offensive chance there, but I just reset back behind the rock, another fresh shade, and this guy just goes for a random AoE, pulling me out of stealth. And again, I'm not able to really open on these guys, and especially when you have a lot of opponents around you like this, you want to make sure that when you attack, you're opening with the advantage, not them. Otherwise, you're going to take a ton of damage. And there you see again, I just shade into safety. I don't set down the shade again. I really should have. Now I'm trying to go for the combo on this enemy Necromancer. Shouldn't have gone for the roll cancel back. I might have actually been able to kill him because he didn't break that stun. I was expecting him to break it, but he might be running a set or something that gives him more durability when he's laying on the ground. Either way, he sets down all his AoE fields. I wait until they're past the duration, and then I open on stealth on the Necromancer again. I get good damage into him. I try to hit him with the light attack into the ultimate from stealth. Now, he doesn't have, or does have stun immunity, but I just keep up good offensive pressure. He counters with his ultimate before I can put in the last hit, and I'm kind of forced out of there. And block the incoming Blast Bones. Blast Bones is going to jump you right as you exit out of stealth. And here I see more blue players coming in right away, just shifting to a target that looks like he's lower health. And he manages to get into stealth in time, reset my shade, make sure I have some potions, and then go for the crushing weapon. I told you guys, it's nice to have the return on the stamina from crushing weapon. It just means when I'm not actively shooting the shot, I'm going to keep that stamina sustain. I open on this guy from behind. He actually charges the group of EP here and dumps his ultimate. I roll out of it before I finish him off, but the EP end up just finishing him as he's very low health once he gets in there. And then EP ends up coming out and putting big damage into the remaining DC players here. I jump on top of this guy as the EP attack him, get a little bit of damage in, and decide that I'm going to go look for some other fights here. Don't really want to fight next to the EP if I can help it. I got the shade down in behind there. I jump on top of this guy, get a good amount of damage into him. Unfortunately, he gets healed by a healer during the stun there, so I'm unable to actually get the finish, but I think we would have had enough power to bring him down there. And I just shade back out to safety, again, resetting those buffs and being really aware of what's around me in this fight. I don't want to find myself in a really bad position, but quite honestly, with a Nightblade and a build like this, it's going to be tough for me to actually be in a really bad position. There's a lot of terrain to work with here. There you see, the meteor comes down after I fail to go for the combo, and I go into mist form to try to absorb it. A little bit of a weird interaction on the game there. I don't think the mist form worked properly. Either way, I'm still able to shade to safety. And then these two enemy players start to try to put some pressure into me. This guy's just channeling heavy attacks. He is getting healed by a friendly, so I'm unable to finish him off. But there you see, he's in the back. A fully charged bow heavy attack from stealth, and I just let it plunk on him. He ends up going down. This guy tries to res, and I go for the Merciless Resolve into the light attack, surprise attack. It all lands at the same time. Really clean combo, killing him on the res there. Then I jump behind this blue player, hit him with a little bit of damage, see that he's pretty tanky, set down a fresh shade, lots of blue jumping on top of me here, and there's the big save from the Vampire ultimate. My health is low, I'm in a bad position, and this is the build flexing its ability to just be very difficult to bring down and very annoying to fight. I set down a new shade there, get into stealth, and I connect a beautiful combo on that guy. He was very squishy, fully charged heavy attack into the ambush, light attack, surprise attack, and he goes down pretty much from full health in an instant. And then I just shade back to safety again, reset my buffs, reset my shade, and then I open on the next guy here. I get good damage in him, landing no crit, unfortunately, with that spectral arrow. That might have actually been enough damage to kill him if we got the crit. And again, just reset the shade, reset the buffs, and blue ends up heading out of here towards another destination. And I just hang around a little bit, seeing what else is going to come. This was such a long fight, but definitely a really fun run through Cyrodiil. And I end up seeing a couple yellow players here. I just plunk this guy with some light attacks into the crushing weapon, and a big heavy attack from stealth from that enemy Nightblade. He chunks my health pretty good, but doesn't do enough damage to actually proc the White Streak set, and I'm able to heal up. And there's just a little bit of the durability of the build. If we were on a much squishier Nightblade, he might have just one-shot us out of stealth with a big crit there. So yeah, able to absorb that attack. I'm pretty happy about that. And then we get back up to the top here. I go into stealth. I open on this guy here. I do get him off balance as he blocks the attack. And there you see a nice combo with the partial charged heavy attack into the surprise attack. And I get a great off balance stun on him. And then just the spectral arrow as I roll away. Nice big hit on him too, and I bring him down. Try to open up with some damage on that Necro as he comes by, and a lot of yellow come charging up the top here. Instead of just revealing myself, I get back behind the tree, set down that safety shade, and then go into stealth and see if I can pick a nice target here. Just kind of letting the heavy attack go off, re-stealthing after the heavy attack lands on something to see if I can pick a better target. There was kind of a fail attempt on that enemy Templar there. He ends up just running away. And again, I'm not going to try to pursue it, just see what ends up waiting to fight me. Big damage out of stealth with the combo on that enemy player, and he ends up getting into stealth before I can get any more damage into him, and I take quite a bit of pressure from the enemy Sork. Again, resetting that shade, and then I try to get back into stealth to open on these guys. Big combo out of stealth on that guy. That was the spectral arrow into the light attack, surprise attack again. One of these sneakier stealth combos that Nightblade has access to, and fantastic burst damage from it. I bring that guy down. The Sork ends up running away, and the last Nightblade here is hanging around, I think, trying to either kill me or res his friend, and I managed to land the ultimate from stealth there. He does a great job breaking it, rolling away before I can land any more damage on him, and then right back into stealth. I just stealth up to counter his stealth, I guess, and then reset my buffs here, reset my shade, and this guy goes for the res. That, not a great decision. He manages to just survive. A little unlucky with the crits there. I try to stay on top of him. Notice that this really high damage Nightblade that hit me with the heavy attack is here. I almost kill him outright with the light attack, surprise attack. He manages to just roll and enter stealth in time, and there I go for the pop on stealth. There's a couple Nightblades popping in and out of stealth here, and here comes the train. I go into mist form to try to shade to a better spot. Unfortunately, my shade was pretty heavily camped by some AoEs, and that's going to be that. Now I've got one last clip for you guys here, a little bit of an offensive display courtesy of Mid-Year Mayhem, so I hope you guys enjoy the last fight. Yeah, I gotta say, this build feels really good to play, and I've been struggling a lot with finding something on a Nightblade that uses Cloak that I like playing, that's a good mix between durable enough to be out here and fighting in PvP, and not just a gank build that gets absolutely destroyed if you catch it out of stealth. So I do really like this. I'm enjoying the playstyle. I gotta say, it's a bit of an adjustment not playing the really glassy Nightblades that I'm used to, but yeah, Nightblade still has excellent damage, and if you land those big crits on this build, you can definitely put some big burst into people. Of course, if you want to see a written guide to this build, there is a link down below for you guys. You can find it on my website, KristoferESO.com. You can catch me live on Twitch and give me a follow on Twitter if you guys want to keep up to date with me. There's links to that down below as well. And if you guys have an awesome build that you want to see featured on the channel, or if you have a fight that you want to see in the ESO top 5s, you can send that to KristoferESO@hotmail.com. This show is sponsored by What the Fast. It's a VPN for gamers. They can give you better ping to your favorite games, free to try for the first month. There's a link down below for you guys. And last but not least, a massive thank you to all of my patrons on Patreon. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for supporting. And of course, I hope to see you guys next time. Hope you all enjoyed the build. And have a great night, everybody.